What's going on, y'all? Just Haley here, and I am back again with another video. Now, I know, it's been a while since I've uploaded, and I'm so sorry for that. I unfortunately had a bit of a throat infection, and I've been dealing with that, trying to also make sure that I upkept the stream schedule, which is Thursday through Sunday on Twitch. And between both of that, and just general life, it was hard for me to also then upload onto YouTube as well without completely losing my voice. So I wasn't really able to upkeep any content during that time. So I apologize, but we're about 70-80% getting back to normal, I think. So hopefully we're going to be able to continue to pump out some content for you guys here on YouTube as well, going through new build videos and stuff like that. That out of the way, of course, gonna plug the Twitch. Make sure you guys go follow us on Twitch if you guys like Twitch content. And Thursday through Sunday, typically starting around 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific, sometimes a little bit earlier. That out of the way, this is going to be a build for one of my favorite frames, top 10 for sure, and that is Caliban. I know that we have a Caliban build already up on the channel, but there are some changes here that you're gonna want to pay attention to, and some new tech and things like that that I've learned since I've been playing him a lot more, bringing him to EDA, ETA, stuff like that, and I really enjoy how he plays. Caliban is an incredibly strong frame with a lot of synergies in his kit, and absolutely one of the best minion builds in the game, so really strong and definitely worth building if you are interested. This build also only takes 4 Forma to run, which is pretty cool too, so obviously that's a nice little benefit. Without further ado, let's get right into our subsumes, because you already know, hopefully, that is how I like to start videos, but do remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. It does help out the channel a ton. Let's get right to it. So, what do we start off with for our subsume? The first thing I want to say is that you don't really need a subsume. Now, I personally don't really care for Fusion Strike, and I don't think it fits the Razor Gyre playstyle, but if you want to run it, you absolutely can. However, Fusion Strike tends to be better with the Conquilists because they will also cast Fusion Strike with you. You're going to create a bunch of areas of the armor strip, which is pretty cool. And that's always really nice if you're running some kind of weapon platform type build with Caliban. But if you're doing a build that is using the augment and using what I think is the best way to play Caliban, grouping enemies together and just letting the minions take them out, you don't need to do that. They also patched it up so that the minion kills don't prevent the acolytes from spawning, i.e. they didn't count towards kills that would allow an acolyte to spawn. So since that all works now, you can actually run this build and not feel like you're gimping yourself, not getting still essence because you're not getting those acolyte spawns. So that feels really good too. With all of that said, the other thing that they changed is that the electric from the augment that you're giving the pets is now actually going to be able to trigger the Archon stretch mod, which is pretty cool too. That's a nice little buff. It's going to let us run that if we want to, and we do have the capacity for it, lo and behold. So with all of that said, I am going to be running a build for the Razor Gyre augment. So what that does overall is that it's going to allow me to run Razor Mortar, pull enemies together, and just group them up. And with that in mind, I don't really need Fusion Strike to do that. I personally like running Nourish. Now, I used to run Roar, but Roar has one really big downside that I do talk about previously, and that is that you cannot perfectly sync your lethal progeny with Roar. So sometimes they'll be buffed, sometimes they won't. Sometimes you might only hit 15 seconds of a lethal progeny life with a Roar buff, or you're casting it again and then you're doubling up on your cast. All in all, it was just a lot to manage that didn't make a lot of sense, and you're never going to get it perfect because there is no perfect sync for that. So that ends up meaning, what's the better way to run it? In my opinion, Nourish. Nourish can buff them, and it also gives you a pretty big buff. It allows you to spread viral all over the place as well, which is really cool. And it gives the viral to your pet that's sitting on your shoulder, in this case a Sentinel. I'm running the Nautilus, which is my murderous Nautilus build. We're just running the basic Verglis and stuff like that, and allowing it to just shred things really easily using Summoner's Wrath and a sizable Nourish buff. Now what that ends up meaning is that we're getting Nourish to our lethal progeny. We are going to give Nourish to the pet, and then Nourish to ourselves. It's just a really nice strong effect. We don't need the Roar for that effect. We're getting the Roar into our minions from the Summoner's Wrath anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The rest of this build, honestly, we're just going to be prioritizing strength and prioritizing range to make sure that we're getting as much as we can. We also still want at least a little bit of duration to make sure that the buff lasts as long as it can from that Razor Mortar. What this looks like is this. We're going overextended Augur Reach and yes, Archon Stretch, since that did get fixed, and now the electric procs will work. We're also then going to be running Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude, and Umbral Intensify for our strength, combining that all with the Molt Augmented for more strength on top of that. Throw in Archon Continuity and Bob's your uncle. You get a little bit of duration that allows the buffs to last a little bit longer, which is going to feel really nice. And that's going to be really, really convenient for how we're running this build. So we're not running that much energy. We did get a little bit of an energy buff for the Prime. We also got some extra shields, and the main mod you're going to notice that we're not running here, and I actually took it out to run the Augment Razor Mortar in this regard, is no Prime Redirection. Now, why am I not running Prime Redirection in this build? It's because, as it stands, the way that this works is that you are supposed to not get extra shield gate timer from overshields. But since the advent of overshield and shield gate, that has not been the case. When your overshields go up to a certain value, you get the shield gate from those overshields too. What this means is that because of how much shield we're generating via our lethal progeny, we are always ending up with enough shields to give us the 2.5 second max shield gate duration, which is fantastic. That means we don't need Prime Redirection for that, or any redirection mods at all. Now, the other thing you do get from Prime Redirection is shield recovery per second. But that shield recovery per second is only after not taking damage for however long, which means that's only when you would normally be regenerating shields. Keep in mind that we always have at least 3 progeny out. Those 3 progeny are giving us over 100 shields per second. What that means is that we're already getting like 300. We don't really care about the extra 50 that we could get from running Prime Redirection. In the end, all it does is make it harder to get to the max shields that we would have. We don't need it. We're running enough overshield that we almost always have overshield up anyway. You can see it here. I'm constantly at the overshield cap. It's very, very easy to sustain. So we don't really need the Prime Redirection for this build. The other thing we don't need is fast deflection, because we're already regenerating shields so quickly and so much. We don't really need it. Now, maybe you could argue running fast deflection, taking out Aegis, but Aegis gives us energy shield generation that will last even if our energy shields hit 0. And the one key point of Caliban that does tend to be a detriment for his survivability is that if his shields hit 0, the lethal progeny stop generating shields for him, and Razor Gyre won't necessarily give shields back. Now, we fix that by running the Augur Reach, so we get a little bit of shields back when we cast Razor Gyre, but just in case, if it's casting for free or anything like that, if your shields do hit 0, they won't come back. You won't be able to shield gate easily like that, and that does bring me to the second build that I run, which is pretty nice. Now, this is the build you can see in the gameplay here, and again, I'm running that Summoner's Wrath. In this case, I'm actually running Cunning Drift. That's because I'm running Rolling Guard. We're dropping our range a little bit, but this is actually going to be since we're taking out Overextended, giving us tons of strength back. We're still at about a 19 meter range on our Razor Gyre, so pulling enemies in 19 meters. We are losing about a 9 meter radius here, which is a bit unfortunate. But what we get out of this is more strength, which is going to be buffing our Nourish, it's going to be buffing our Lethal Progeny, and it's going to be buffing our damage vulnerability, as well as the extra damage that we're giving our Lethal Progeny, which is always really cool. We're also going to be getting Rolling Guard out of this, which is going to allow us to clear things like Magnetic procs, which affect our shield regeneration, as well as any Toxin procs, which will kill you flat out since we are shield tanking here. So all that is really nice. Again, we're going with that Aegis and the Augmented. More strength is going to feel really, really competent, really comfortable, and really, really strong for this build, especially when you start adding in all of the extra damage vulnerability and stuff like that that Caliban can get. More strength just feels really, really solid. So going over that 400% feels really good, and I really, really like it. Now, I know some might think that Aegis is a little bit overkill here, but Aegis is going to allow your shields to constantly be up, which allows your Lethal Progeny to constantly generate your shields, and I'm never actually thinking about proccing it. I'm just kind of letting my shields stay up, take damage, and then proc it as they take damage. Ends up meaning that you just play normally and you get the effect, all while letting your pets deal most of the damage for you, letting the damage vulnerability kind of speak for itself, letting the viral add in more damage vulnerability, multiplication through that, and then your Lethal Progeny getting all of the buff from the Razor Mortar in all of this. Now, for this build, you could also go Prime Sure-Footed for the same reasons I mentioned before. It's really nice, especially if you end up going past any of the XMS and then just get hit by something as the Razor Gyre ends. That would be really nice. But if you want to make up for some of that, you can get to that 19 meters instead of, running all the way down to like 17.5. It's up to you. I like the extra cutting drift, but I totally understand if it's not something you want to do. You could even, though, drop Archon Stretch, because you don't really need the extra energy from it, and run the overextended there instead. That's obviously an option. I think it's a good one too, because it is going to feel really nice. That does necessitate an Omniforma if you want to swap those, but that's really up to you. I think it's super nice because it's going to give you 45% more range. That then is again going to let you run that Prime Sure-Footed effect. Or again, you could do the Inaru Focus School to give a Prime Sure-Footed effect really easily like that too. The only time that I ever die with this is if I'm not paying attention and I just get knocked out. That's the only time that Caliban really can die, because other than that, you're just going to be pulling enemies together and letting the pets just kind of take care of business for you. It's very easy, very simple, and it uses these shards. Now, our shards are pretty basic. The shards are just going to be 4 Tau reds for strength, and then 1 Tau purple for equilibrium effect. I love engaging an equilibrium effect. I just think it's really nice, and it allows you to, if you ever run out of energy because you cast things in the wrong order, which can happen, you just pick up 1 health orb or 1 energy orb, and then you can Racer Gyre again, get all your energy back, and you're good to go. It's really simple, it's really easy, and just gives me a little bit of a layer of comfort that I appreciate. But obviously, if you don't want to run that, you don't have to. You could even just run a blue shard for energy, just to help out. That'll take you all the way up to that 300, which is going to feel really nice. Now, he doesn't need that much energy because you're not ever casting that much, but it's obviously up to you if you want to run it or not. Again, this is pretty much what I was running before when I was going through EDA and ETA very, very easily, very simply. I like the range build personally more than the rolling guard build, but obviously if you're getting hit by a lot of toxin procs or a lot of magnetic procs, stuff like that, the rolling guard can feel really, really good for those kinds of situations because that is going to help you out a little bit there. It's up to you. What this comes together to make is essentially a very, very strong weapon platform through Nourish with a ton of strength, as well as the damage vulnerability from the Sentient Wrath, his steppies, and then combining that with the Tau status as well for the multiplicative status chance increase, you get a very strong weapon platform that also has the pets that are just nuking damage out too, and a big grouping effect, giving enemies that good suck. Feels really, really nice. It's really, really easy, and it just kind of plays itself. You pretty much just spin around in a circle, and you're going to pull enemies together, pop those nullifiers when you need to, and you're kind of good to go. Now, what you see me using to pop those nullifiers today is actually my Cedo, which is a brand new build that I just put together recently. The Riven just being status chance and multi-shot. I love multi-shot on the Cedo. It feels really good for the glaive. That's how I've always run it. I'm just running a really basic build here. It's really nice. You're getting the Frostbite procced through the glaive since it primes all base elements on the glaive hits. So that's pretty cool. That means you're getting electric, cold, heat, and toxin all together on the glaive, on top of the blast and the slash and everything else from the glaive. I rarely ever actually shoot it unless I need to on like an acolyte or something like that. It's pretty simple. Usually I was using the Vasto and Karnan for the acolytes, or just letting the pets do it just for the display on the build for the gameplay that I was putting out here. The other weapon that I'm running here is that new Venato Prime. Now that has a unique trait. It's going to allow us to spread Tau status whenever we trigger a status. That's a melee influences Wet Dream. It's so much fun. It's really cool. And we have a Riven here that's going to be attack speed, which is nice, electric, which is nice, and toxin. That allows me to go gas here. Ideally, we'd be doing a blast Riven, or at least in some regard, blast. So whether that's heat or cold, and then electric, you just want that combination so you can run a basic melee influence build. That's going to allow us to run Weeping Wounds instead of the 60/60s, which is going to, at 12 times combo, give us that 440% instead of what would normally be 120%. Combine that with the Tau status of the multiplicative status chance increase. Feels really, really nice. Status chance might be a little low at first because we're losing those 60/60s, but once we stack up with Weeping and Galvanized Elementalist, it's really nice. Blood Rush comes in for extra crit chance, which is going to be cool. And then Galvanized Steel comes in as well for more crit chance, as well as that crit damage. It feels really nice too. Condition Overload, because we have the attack speed on the Riven, we can go Berserker's Fury, and it feels really nice. I really like it. This weapon is probably going to be one of my favorites and put into my pretty standard pool of weapons that I pull out for those melee influence shenanigans. You guys know that I like bonk sticks that hit really hard in nice AoEs. It's a really fun weapon, and I'm excited to continue to play with it and mess around with it. Chose not to run the sniper today just because I didn't think it worked for how I was playing. For the most part, it's going to be one that I just want to pop off something real quick to pop those nullifier bubbles and things like that. I do have the Vasto. It's just a very standard Vasto Incarnate build for any single target type damage that you want to do. Fending the Hammer, it's pretty fun. The one thing that I do want to address with this build is not running Prime Redirection where I ran it before. A lot of people are putting Prime Redirection or Redirection in general, or even just Shield Recharge in their builds for Caliban, and it just feels like a mistake. Because overshields count towards shield gate duration, and technically that is a bug, so this could be patched at any point, but it hasn't been patched for years at this point, so I can't imagine that happening now. You know, that caveat out of the way, it feels very much like a mistake to do that on Caliban. I know, and I recognize that that is me admitting that I made a mistake in the previous build video, whether that was lack of experience with Caliban or just lack of understanding of that specific part of the mechanic for shield gating, I'm not sure, but being able to admit that is something that I think is important, because those types of mistakes happen, and being able to update a build and being able to take that frame and optimize them a little bit further is a good thing. So obviously, if you want to run the Redirection and have more shields, you can, but that more shields doesn't really benefit him in any reasonable way, because for the most part, he's just generating so much overshield that you're getting the shield gate duration that you would normally have anyway, and so very rarely are you going to be just naturally triggering enough from that shield regeneration. It's only like 50-ish. That's really going to be meaningful for Caliban in any kind of realistic scenario. Again, you guys are obviously free to tweak, adjust, and find the build that works for you, but do keep in mind that certain mods just don't have a ton of synergy when the rest of the kit doesn't work with that. And in my opinion, that's where you get into Redirection not really working with how Caliban plays, because of how the shield regeneration works and how much overshield he can already generate just through the lethal progeny, and that's not even using the summon lethal progeny, which would be even tankier, because if you use that, obviously you don't get the benefit on the Razorshire and causing all the damage and stuff like that from the artillery units that they're going to be dropping. It's up to you. Run what you want to run and have fun with Caliban. I do hope you enjoyed the build. Please experiment, test, tweak, and figure out what you like. Caliban is an incredibly fun frame. He obviously got his rework and got a huge glow up, and then this new augment is maybe one of my favorite in the game. I love being able to suck in a bunch of enemies all into one spot, because it's just going to be good in general, but you combine that with things like Sentient Wrath, causing damage vulnerability, combine that with the artillery coming in for Tau damage, as well as the electric damage and stuff like that. Electric damage with a ton of status effect, causing the electric novas to even do damage there, and it's just really, really strong and really fun. I love the way he plays. It's so much fun, and it is really cool for just any type of mission as well, and it just feels really fun. It's really strong, and it works incredibly well. Caliban is so cool, and the design for his Prime is just chef kiss. Mwah. Love what the art team did for it. I do hope you enjoy. If you do check this out, please let me know in the comments what you think. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. As always, I've been just Haley. You've been just amazing. So until next time, please remember that I love your faces. Bye.